guys, it's Ann Yorks from the Flourbox, and I am so excited to be doing a live demo today. Today I'm going to show you how to make our newest cookie cutter. This is the gingerbread in stocking. This is such a fun design, and I cannot wait to show you how to make this cookie step by step. So we're just gonna jump in using a couple of basic icing colors today. I have a light brown, a white, and a red, and I also have a little bit of black and pink for those face accents. Oh, hey Sherry, how are you? I see you're here from Omaha. If you wanna pop in where you're watching from, let me know. I love to see where everybody is checking in from. So, all right, let's take a look at our project here. We're gonna just look at the cookies that we're gonna be making. I have a whole bunch of these gingerbreads, and I've done them in lots of different colors with some different airbrushed patterns. You can pipe your details like I did on Patty's stocking, or you can even stencil your details like I did on Cecilia's. So I have lots of different choices there, but let's jump in and take a look at how to outline and pipe these. Hey Sippy, how are you? Hi Dorinda from Wisconsin, Melissa from Pennsylvania, Denise, Vancouver. How's everybody doing? So good to be decorating with you guys today. All right, let's jump in, take a look. So I'm using royal icing to decorate these cookies, and I have my icing in the piping consistency for my outlines. This is what I'm gonna use for the outlines and the details on the cookies. And then I also have thinner flood royal icing in my piping bag. No tip needed on those. We don't need quite as much control over that. And this is the icing that we're gonna use to flow onto the surface of the cookie as well. And I'm gonna do a little airbrush demo for you today. I have some, I don't know if you can see this, metallic red that I'm gonna be showing off with the buffalo plaid stencil. So that is gonna be so much fun. All right, so I'm going to actually outline the fur on the stocking top first using white piping icing and tip number 2. Notice I keep a finger on the coupler. That just keeps my piping lines nice and steady. Next, I'm going to outline the gingerbread, and I'm just going to bring his arms up and around. When I get a point like right here where his arm meets his head, I just touch down the icing, drop down to stick it to the cookie. That allows me to move it in a new direction. But for the most part, my tip is up and off the cookie, really just letting that icing fall onto the surface. That gives you a nice round stream of icing, and these outlines are meant to hold back that flood icing, so give you a nice tall outline if you don't drag your tip. Sometimes that can flatten the icing. And now I have my red piping icing, again, tip number 2. And I'm just going to finish off that stocking. So that is our cute little outlines on the cookie. That's pretty straightforward. And I'm going to flood in the stocking and the gingerbread. Royal icing, if you haven't used it before, does require some dry time to get that nice, smooth, flat surface. So I have the next cookie stepped out and prepped and ready to go, but you can see there's some flat, rosy pink cheeks. We're gonna add that pink icing onto the cookie while the blue is still wet. That's called a wet on wet technique. Let me show you how to do that. So we'll do that first. I have a nice light brown icing color. I just think that makes the gingerbread look so nice. I like the lighter brown. I'm using a Chef Master Buckeye Brown. I didn't mix the brown with any other gel. So it's just a really tiny dot of that Buckeye Brown. And notice I like to follow the outline of the cookie first. That really helps to conceal that outline on the cookie. And then after I do that, it's almost like outlining the cookie once. I'll go back in and really just be generous with that flood, filling in that cookie. Because this is a 10-second icing, this icing will self-level. So that will flow smooth. We'll get that nice flat surface as that icing just kind of flows out. Now here's the wet on wet part. While this icing is still wet, we're going to go ahead and add these pink cheeks. So I have a little bit of pastel pink in a flood bag, and I'm just going to add that pink cheek, and that dot of pink is just going to flow down nice and flat. You can see it's going nice and flat. Everything is smoothing out. You really don't even need your scribe tool, although I do have a really cute scribe tool today that I'm using. That icing will just self-level. Now, if you haven't already heard, this cookie cutter is free with your $25 purchase this weekend. So that promotion will end midnight on Monday, on Cyber Monday. So if you love this cookie and you want to get this cookie cutter for free, you can get it for free on flourbox.com. We are also offering free shipping this weekend. And so if you spend $25, you get free shipping and you get a really cute cookie cutter too. Kind of awesome. So I'm going to flood in our red stocking now. Again, I have a 10-second flood icing. I am using the Chef Master Christmas red. I love this red at the holidays. It also makes a great red for Valentine's Day because it is nice and bright and cheerful, and it is almost like a candy red. There are a few other red options in the Chef Master line, but the Christmas red is my favorite option for holiday cookies, for the most part. So I hope you enjoy that Christmas red as much as I do. Again, that icing is just going to self-level out because it is that 10-second icing. We have a great video on flourbox.com. If you don't know how to make royal icing consistencies, you can check that out for details on how to make royal icing and those two common consistencies, piping and flooding. Now, I would let this cookie, this wet cookie, dry in front of the fan for about an hour before I'll come back in and start adding some details. So the first thing that I want to do is add this plaid. Now remember, if you don't have an airbrush machine, you can pipe details, so don't feel any pressure to do that. But we do have an amazing airbrush deal going on this Black Friday weekend. I'll share that at the end of the tutorial. So I am going to show how to airbrush this really cute buffalo plaid onto the cookie. So I'm using a stencil genie. This is a magnetic frame that holds the stencil into place. It has a thick side and a thin side. I'm putting the thick side down because of the thickness of my cookies and icing. I want that stencil to be touching the surface of the icing. I don't want any color to sneak up and under my stencil, and I don't want any color on the gingerbread. So I'm actually going to take a paper towel and just cover up the area that I don't want to airbrush. Now you could airbrush this first and then go and flood in the gingerbread's body and head, but I find it's just easier, it's a little faster just to cover it up. Now I have the Cookie Countess unit. This is the unit that we carry on flourbox.com. You can find a good deal on this. This weekend you can buy just the unit for a good deal, and you can also get a bundle. I'll show you some of those details at the end. And I'm going to be using this buffalo plaid stencil. It's already clicked in there, and I have the plaid in position. I have it centered on the cookie, and I'm also going to use the Chef Master Metallic Red. I just like the label on this. That is so much fun. So I'm going to give it a good shake, just get all that color mixed up in there. And then I'm going to put some of that color, just a couple drops is enough, into my airbrush gun. Because this is a metallic color, I'm going to use the airbrush on high. So I have my speed dial here set to high, just pushed it on using that button. And I'll give a little tester to make sure the color is coming out. If it's helpful to press down on the stencil using a scribe or a boo-boo stick, sometimes that'll help keep that stencil nice and flat. Now I'm going to keep that airbrush pointed straight down at the cookie. I'm about an inch or two off of this surface, and I'm just going to add one pass of that color onto the cookie. If you want to make it a little brighter, you can just go back and airbrush one more time. And then don't forget to get the ends there as well. All right. So now we're ready to reveal that airbrushed pattern. I'm just going to rock that stencil genie to the side. I don't want to smudge that airbrushed design. And you have that really fun metallic sparkly red on that cookie. Now, if you do have questions about cookie decorating, definitely pop a comment in there. I am watching the comments. So if you have questions about using royal icing, decorating this gingerbread cookie, or using an airbrush machine, I'd love to help, okay? So let's jump into finishing off the details on this cookie. So now that our stocking has the airbrushed pattern, I'm going to flood in the white fur on the stocking. And then I'm going to add 2 details using my flood icing. And I do want these to dry. And I'm using the flood icing on these details because I want them to stay nice and round. So the first detail that I'm going to add is these little peppermint buttons. I like to start with the bottom button first. And then I'll add a second button. Anytime you're adding flood icing, it will continue to spread out. So add those buttons smaller than you think you need to, because that icing will continue to spread as it settles down. And that will keep those buttons nice and round using that white flood icing. And now I'm going to add these really fun eyes. These are nice and big and round. They have a little catch light in them. And I'm going to use my black flood icing for the eyes. Again, flood icing will continue to spread out. So add those eyes a little smaller than you think you need to, because they will continue to spread out as that icing settles down. Now, while this black is still wet, I'm going to use my white flood icing, touch down in the very top right, and add just a little drop. I'm not even squeezing the bag. I'm really just letting gravity do all of the work when I'm adding that white icing, just to keep that dot really nice and small. Now, these icing areas are a bit smaller, so you don't need quite as much dry time on those, but I would let those dry in front of the fan before coming back in to add the detail. So here I have one that is already dry. Now, again, with the details, you can really have a lot of fun with these cookies. So on this one, I did like a little swirly hair with some wavy lines. This one has a squiggly icing line at the top of the head. And I did add freckles to one as well. The freckles are really cute. If you want a freckly gingerbread, you can just add, this is a food marker, this is food color inside of here, and you can just add a dot onto that pink area to add a little bit more cuteness. Now, I asked my girls when I was making these cookie samples, do you like these cookies with or without freckles? They actually said they liked them without freckles, so I didn't do too many freckles, but I kind of thought they were cute. You can add eyelashes to your cookies also using this black marker. Anytime you're using a black marker, you do want to make sure that base icing is nice and dry. Otherwise, the tip of the marker can pop right through And I'm just using real nice light hand pressure as I add that. Speaking of markers, that little button, those little peppermint buttons, now you can do colorful buttons. You can do, you know, lots of things, a little bow tie, but I like these little peppermint buttons. So I'm going to use the red food marker, and to add these little peppermints, I'm gonna give myself a little workroom here. To add these little peppermints, I'm just gonna start in the middle of that white dot, and I'm just going to add that swirl going around. And there you have those little peppermint buttons on there. They're really fun. So we're done with our food markers. Let's add some of these piped details. I did do a little red nose. So I'm going to use the piping icing for that. Again, I have a tip number 2 on there. And I do see a question here from Laurie. She asked, the green stocking, was the flood green with a silver airbrush or a gray background? It's hard to tell. This, Laurie, the background is forest green flood icing, and the airbrush is the metallic green icing. So it is a green on green combination, which I kind of like that. Like, here's one with red on red, blue on blue. So you can see I kind of like those combinations. Here's a white. This is stenciled with icing. This is the Fair Isle Christmas stencil. I see lots of you guys posting you cannot wait to get your cutter. I cannot wait for you to get your cutter. I was so excited to design this one for Black Friday weekend, and I'm so excited. So I can't wait for you all to get your cutter. All right, so let's finish up our details here. We're gonna add a little smile to our gingerbread. Anytime I'm adding smiles, I like to size down the tip on my piping bag to either a tip number 1 or a 1.5. I just find that keeps that detail nice and small. And while I'm holding that bag, you can add a name to your gingerbread stocking, or you could even just add a word. If you're selling these cookies and you don't want to personalize them, you can just put peace or joy, holly jolly. There's lots of phrases you could use this time of year. But I'm just going to use my black icing. I'm just going to add my name. It's 4 letters and it's nice and easy. So there you have little Ann on there. My brother's name is Andrew, so I made that for him. And my sister already ate hers. She was up yesterday helping with Black Friday. She was helping pack orders, so she ate her cookie. But I always use my family's names on my cookies. So if you're wondering where Sarah is, it's in her belly. Okay, so let's keep on adding these little details. So now I'm gonna add my favorite details to the cookies, which is these little squiggles of icing. I just have so much fun, and you can have fun with these squiggles. This one on Cecilia's, this is my daughter, Cecilia. The squiggle is a little bit more spread out. Here on the Ann one, it's a little tighter, so you can really decide, or you can just do a little curly Q like this guy has. That is so much fun. That's probably the easiest one to do. But I'm gonna do a little squiggle here, and I like to go both up and down as I'm adding those squiggles, some small and some tall, just to give it a little bit of personality. And then usually I'll just do 3 waves along the arms. I do them the same for all of them, just because I do like to keep my cookies looking consistent from cookie to cookie. And those are the details on this really awesome cookie. So I hope you enjoyed watching this fun cookie. cookie tutorial using this new gingerbread in stocking, you can find this cutter on flourbox.com.